Laura, you should stand up, because Laura was on that committee way back when, so I think there's a little bit of historical perspective.
Yeah, I was on the board at the time, and two of us on the board wrote the mitigations report that got included in the arena traffic and parking management plan. So, for those who say the arena works pretty well, it's only because of the involvement of the neighborhoods that it does work well.
Which is why we held this tour
Which is
today.
why we're doing it.
That's why we're doing this today, so that's why I said, your voices do matter, and that all these suggestions will get funneled back, because I think that's how we make it work.
But I think there's a really good case, and Kip or Lee could speak to all the ways that RDA and Dennis and the architects in the city have looked at this. Is they plan to force people to park downtown from the city perspective and from the residents' perspective. The last thing we want is a giant parking tower on the other side of the park. The city would benefit far more from commercial development that would bring in the tax base, and from keeping the parking and adding more parking on the other side of 87 to add that revenue and vibrancy to our city.
I have a question regarding noise. Okay, right here where the creek is, my neighborhood is right next to the creek, right here. So the noise is just going to be crazy for us. I'm going to be sitting in the living room, and it's going to be like I'm sitting in the park. So my question is the noise factor for windows, seeing if our neighborhood, the surrounding neighborhood, could get the noise reduction windows, which we tried to do for with the airport. We tried to have it for our neighborhood and the arena, but it was improved. But because this is an open park, I feel that this circle of where the stadium is going to be should, be allowed to ask for the noise reduction windows.
Okay.
And also, because I feel that this is just for the personal right here in the neighborhood. Oh, maybe standing up. Okay. Okay, as far as the noise, but also because my neighborhood, we're going to feel like we're actually sitting watching the game, and yet we're not in the stadium. I would like to ask if we could get free tickets, because we're right here, right next to the creek, sitting there, listening to the ballpark, but yet we're not in the seats. So, might as well see what...
That's a question she has to answer to ask for pavilion right now. That's the same thing.
We had that for the arena for 1 year in this neighborhood. They gave us free tickets for 1 year. After the 1 year was up, they didn't even offer it. So it's worth a try for 1 year.
Okay. Okay, so the question was, will there be noise mitigations in terms of double pane windows provided to the people within the noise circumference surrounding the baseball stadium?
Let me throw something in. Anybody did not sign up on the yellow sheet to get emails, etc.? Bring it down there. And who's recommending?
Noise mitigation.
Come on up, Kip.
Yeah.
I couldn't hear you, it's too noisy.
Let me say something. Let me say something first. Some places in the city and in my neighborhood, there are hard feelings that go back to what were seen as promised mitigation measures back in the late 90s that did not occur.
I would say that applies to our side of the neighborhood as well.
Yeah, I'm serious about the noise. There's a generator going on back there, and that's actually hard. But a couple of things. Noise is one of the impacts identified in the EAR, and as Aloy said, there are some things you can mitigate and some things you can't, right? So let's be honest about that. What we would see is that we would expect that there would be, from the point of view of the folks who build the ballpark, mitigations on the noise, which would include both how you build the stadium, and if there are, this is not so much for ball games, but if there are concerts, there are other ways to look at noise mitigation, including things where if it goes above a certain level, you literally cut the power to the speakers, that kind of thing. And then the other is the effect on the homes. And I think what you see is some of the basic mitigations that you can do that are effective in the neighborhood are the ones that we are already doing for the airport. That is to put in insulation, to put in double pane windows, to improve the doors, etc., etc. And I would expect that those kinds of mitigations would also be appropriate for noise that would come from a ballpark. But the exact what those mitigations are and how they apply to the area are yet to be determined, which gets to the point raised by the Shasta Hatchet folks. My opinion, city's opinion, redevelopment agency's opinion, that's why it's important to have the neighbors continually involved in the process so that as those mitigations are designed, you folks are literally at the table understanding what they are and what they aren't and helping us understand what works and what doesn't.
Let me get one, Jim in the back, and then Margaret.
You talked about noise, but is this going to be an open air park or is it going to be closed?
It's absolutely going to be an open park.
Okay, then my question is, how enjoyable is it going to be at the park when the airplanes are going over at less than 1,000 feet above you? Just the example that went by here a few minutes ago. What's it going to do to the marketing of the park with all that noise coming down?
Well, I think it's going to make it less attractive for certain concerts, that's for sure. But that's for Major League Ball to decide whether that's acceptable for them or not.
I just wanted to add a noise factor that wasn't in the EIR, and this is based on experience when I was visiting San Diego at a downtown hotel at the night of a game. One thing I didn't expect is afterwards, when the local team won, cars going around beeping their horns in celebration. I didn't see that mentioned to the EIR, but I know if I were living in the state, I would find it very annoying.
Well,
That's not happening with the sorry.
As much as they can.
Well, people in San Jose are so much more sophisticated than people in San Diego that shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, they'll have an app for that, use your iPhone and,
I was going to say something that would be a problem for getting the Giants, but it's all right.
All through this discussion, there has been incredible evidence brought up about all of the parking and traffic problems the stadium is going to create. And the answer in all of the EIRs has been, don't worry, it's this master transportation plan that will somehow come to be. And one of the questions that I asked and has never been answered is, what happens during the 2 hours when the 12,000 cars are trying to get parked into the stadium and there is an need for emergency vehicles? If that service is going to be reduced over what it is currently or what it will be after the current budget cuts, and I have not been able to get any answer that makes any sense whatsoever other than this mythical transportation plan. Now there's 30 ballparks already out there. Traffic patterns are pretty well known. This plan could be put out, studied, and improved, and at least made known before we have to vote on it. Otherwise, it's a pig in the poke.
That's a good point. Okay, who hasn't spoken yet? I'm trying to get someone. Huh? It's been here.
Just to answer that question slightly, having been on the fire department at one point in my life, it has been traditional to pre-stage emergency response vehicles so that they are inside the incoming traffic pattern. So if there's a specific issue, you're going out to solve it. That's been traditional in every major city on the planet. Every ski area, which is my experience, every ski area in the world does that. That's how you do business. You pre-stage your people.
Downtown streets are going to be blocked both ways with cars.
Not for outgoing traffic. You got a fire truck that needs to get out to deal with something, they're going the other way from the flow of traffic. That's why you pre-stage them at HP. That's why you see ambulances there on site before every event, on purpose, so they can get out to go find somebody who's had a coronary walking in. And that would be me, because I'm old enough to know.
The other point is that there are 30 new Major League ballparks, but there are very few, there's about a handful, about 5, where you have 2 uses like this. And so a lot of what our Department of Transportation is doing is spending time talking with those folks, going out and studying those cities and understanding those traffic plans to bring some of those best practices back. Because the hardest piece to deal with is when you've got things going both at the arena and the ballpark. And that simultaneous event is really when it's most difficult. So we really do need to learn what those best practices